sheik handed Maid's daughter a single dollar. What she did with it went viral. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's jump right into today's story. In a luxurious mansion on the edge of the city, where wealth and power seemed to rule, something extraordinary was about to unfold. A sheik, known for his immense wealth and influence, sat in his grand dining room surrounded by opulence. The room was decorated with gold-trimmed furniture, Persian rugs that cost more than most people's homes, and chandeliers that sparkled like stars. The sheik was a man who had everything: status, riches, and power. His wealth was endless, and his name was known in the most powerful circles. But today, his world was about to change forever. At the far end of his mansion, in the servants' quarters, lived a young girl named Layla, the daughter of his housekeeper. She had known nothing but hard work and sacrifice, growing up in the shadows of the extravagant world she could never be a part of. Layla's mother, Miriam, worked tirelessly in the mansion, cleaning, cooking, and tending to the sheik's every need. She was always careful to be invisible, ensuring that the family's wealth and the sheik's lifestyle were never interrupted by their presence. Layla had learned from her mother that their place was to remain unseen and unheard, a lesson she carried with her every day. One day, while she was quietly sweeping the grand dining room, the sheik walked in, looking as powerful as ever. He looked down at her, a smirk playing on his lips. He was known to be a man who never noticed the people who worked for him. But today, something was different. As he passed by, he stopped and, almost in jest, pulled out a single dollar bill from his wallet and handed it to Layla. "Here," he said, "take this. Maybe you can buy something nice for yourself." Layla was taken aback. In all her years working in the mansion, no one had ever treated her as more than a shadow. The dollar was a meaningless gesture to him, but to her, it was something far more. As the sheik turned to leave, he didn't expect anything in return. To him, it was just a moment of mockery, a brief interaction with someone from the lower class. Little did he know, Layla had a plan. One that would turn his small act of charity into something viral, something that would change their lives forever. What would she do with that single dollar? Would it be used to buy something small for herself, like a treat or a toy? Or would she use it for something far greater? As she walked away, holding the dollar tightly in her hand, Layla knew that today was the beginning of something much bigger than she could have ever imagined. As Layla walked away from the sheik, clutching the single dollar bill in her hand, she felt a strange sense of determination she had never felt before. In that small gesture, she saw an opportunity, not just for herself, but for something much bigger. She had always been invisible in this mansion, a mere shadow of the wealth and grandeur that surrounded her. But today, with that single dollar, she had the chance to change everything. Layla went to her small room at the back of the mansion, her heart racing as she thought about what to do next. The dollar might seem insignificant to most, but to her, it was a symbol of a world that had always overlooked people like her, people from the lower classes. She had heard stories of people doing extraordinary things with small acts of kindness, and today, she would make one of those stories her own. After some thought, Layla decided she would not use the dollar for herself. She had always dreamed of helping others, and now, she saw a way to do just that. The mansion she lived in was full of wealth, but just outside its gates, there were people who struggled to make ends meet. Families who couldn't afford basic necessities, children who had no access to education, and elderly people who had no one to care for them. Layla knew that the money she had could make a small difference in someone's life. She decided to take a walk to the nearest market and buy a simple loaf of bread, some vegetables, and a little bit of fruit. She didn't have much, but it was enough to feed a family for a few days. As she made her way back to the mansion, she passed by a small homeless camp under a bridge, where a family of 4 lived. The father, a man with weary eyes and a scruffy beard, looked up as Layla approached. He had seen her before, but like most people in the mansion, he never paid attention to her. Today, however, Layla's face was different. There was something about her presence that caught his attention. She walked up to him and, without a word, handed him the food she had just bought. The man looked at her in surprise, his eyes filled with disbelief. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, his voice soft but full of gratitude. Layla simply smiled and said, "Because everyone deserves a chance, no matter who they are." The man stood frozen for a moment, then slowly accepted the food. Layla didn't stay to watch him eat. She simply turned and walked away. But as she walked, she felt something shift inside her. It wasn't just about the food. It was about giving someone a chance, offering them something they needed when the world had given them nothing. Layla's small act of kindness didn't go unnoticed. The homeless family spread the word, telling others in the area about the young girl who had given them food. Soon, more people came to Layla, asking for help. Layla didn't have much, but she knew how to make a difference. And the news of her actions soon spread far beyond the streets of the city. People started taking notice of her, seeing her for who she really was. Someone with a heart full of compassion, someone who cared for others in ways the rich and powerful had long forgotten. In the grand scheme of things, Layla's act might have seemed small, but to those who received her kindness, it was everything. The Sheikh had no idea what had happened, but he would soon find out. He would soon learn that sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness could create the biggest impact. As days passed, Layla's small act of kindness began to create ripples in the community, and soon, the news reached the Sheikh. He had no idea how his casual gesture of handing a single dollar to the maid's daughter would lead to such a profound shift. At first, it seemed like just a minor incident, a moment he had long forgotten. However, the impact of Layla's actions spread like wildfire, catching the attention of not only the poor, but also those in the Sheikh's inner circle. Layla's generosity had touched the hearts of many, and her simple, selfless act became the talk of the town. People began asking who this young girl was, the one who had given away the dollar, who had chosen to use it for others rather than herself. The Sheikh, always surrounded by luxury and power, had spent his life oblivious to the struggles of those beneath him. But the story of Layla was impossible to ignore. One evening, as he sat in his grand office, overlooking the city, one of his closest advisors entered with an unusual report. "Sheikh, you need to hear this," the advisor said, presenting a stack of messages and articles. Layla's name was everywhere, and not for any reason the Sheikh had ever anticipated. Her story had gone viral, shared across social media platforms, and even made headlines in local news. It was a story of kindness, of a girl who had nothing yet gave everything. The Sheikh was stunned. He had never thought much of the servants or the people who worked in his household, and yet, here was one of them who had done more for the community than most of his wealthy associates. Layla's act had sparked a chain of events that no one could have predicted. The Sheikh's first reaction was one of disbelief. How could someone so poor, so insignificant in the eyes of society, have such a profound impact? But as he read the stories and saw the reactions of people, something began to stir inside him. He realized that he had misjudged her, and that this small, invisible girl had done something extraordinary. It was then that the Sheikh knew he needed to meet Layla. He couldn't ignore what had happened any longer. The next day, he arranged for a meeting. Layla, still unaware of the whirlwind her actions had created, was called into the Sheikh's mansion. When she arrived, she was nervous, unsure of what to expect. She had never been summoned by the Sheikh before. As she stepped into the lavish room, the Sheikh looked at her with a mix of curiosity and admiration. "Layla," he said, his voice calm yet firm, "I've been reading about what you did. I want to understand why you chose to give away the dollar I gave you. Most people in your position would have kept it for themselves." Layla, though taken aback, answered honestly, "I just wanted to help. I saw people who needed it more than I did, and I wanted to make a difference." The Sheikh sat in silence for a moment, his mind racing. He had spent his life accumulating wealth. Yet here was a girl who had nothing and still found a way to make the world better. He had never considered what it truly meant to give, to help, and to use power for good. "You've shown me something I've never understood before," the Sheikh said softly. "Perhaps I've been blind to the needs of others. You have more wisdom in your heart than I could have ever imagined." Layla was silent, not knowing how to respond to the Sheikh's words. She had never expected this kind of reaction. As they sat there, something shifted in the Sheikh. He realized that the true value of wealth was not in the riches he possessed, but in how one used that wealth to help others. Layla had shown him the way, and from that moment on, things would never be the same for either of them. The Sheikh sat across from Layla, his mind racing with the realization that this young girl had changed something within him. The room, once a symbol of his wealth and power, now felt like a space of reflection. Layla, still unsure of how to respond to the Sheikh's words, simply sat there, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never imagined that one small act could lead to a conversation with the most powerful man in the city. The Sheikh broke the silence first, his voice filled with newfound respect. I have spent my life building an empire, accumulating wealth, and yet, it took you, someone with nothing, to show me the true meaning of generosity. Layla shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to respond to the Sheikh's confession. She wasn't used to being recognized, especially not by someone so powerful. But she wasn't in this for praise, she had only wanted to help. The Sheikh leaned forward, his eyes focused on her. What you did with that dollar, it was a lesson I will never forget. You reminded me that true wealth isn't in what we own, but in what we give to others. I want to help you, Layla. I want to make sure you have the opportunities you deserve. Layla blinked in surprise. She had never imagined this moment would come. She had expected maybe a thank you, but this? She had no words. The Sheikh smiled softly, noticing her shock. I will pay for your education, Layla. I will make sure that you have everything you need to succeed. You have shown me the power of selflessness, and I want to invest in your future. Layla's heart raced. This was more than she could have ever hoped for. The idea that the Sheikh, who had always been so distant, now wanted to help her, was overwhelming. Thank you, she whispered, her voice trembling. The Sheikh nodded, his expression serious but kind. You don't need to thank me, Layla. You've earned this. Over the next few weeks, Layla's life began to change in ways she could never have imagined. The Sheikh arranged for her to attend a prestigious school, one that had always seemed out of reach for someone like her. She began to study subjects she had only dreamed of, mathematics, literature, and even art. As she walked through the halls of the school, Layla couldn't help but feel like she was in a dream. She had gone from working as a maid's daughter in a mansion to attending one of the finest schools in the city. It was a transformation that seemed impossible just a few months ago. But Layla knew she couldn't forget where she came from, and she didn't plan to. She still remembered the family she had helped, the homeless man she had given food to, and the people who had nothing. They were the reason she kept moving forward. Despite all the changes in her life, Layla remained humble. She used the opportunities the Sheikh gave her not for personal gain, but to help others. She started tutoring other students who struggled, volunteering at local shelters, and using her education to make a difference. Her actions, once again, did not go unnoticed. People began to see Layla for who she truly was, a person, with a heart full of compassion, someone who had the power to change the world with kindness. And as for the Sheikh, he found himself humbled by her journey. He had given her money, but Layla had given him something much more valuable, an understanding of what true wealth was. And as the months passed, the Sheikh began to make changes of his own. He started funding scholarships for children from underprivileged backgrounds, opening up opportunities for those who were once invisible. Layla's story had not only changed her life, but also the Sheikh's, and together, they were proving that the power of kindness could transform lives in ways wealth never could. Months passed, and Layla's life continued to evolve in ways she had never imagined. The Sheikh's support had given her the opportunity to pursue an education, but it was her own determination, kindness, and humility that allowed her to thrive. She excelled in her studies, not for the accolades or the approval of others, but because she knew that with every lesson learned, she was becoming more equipped to help those who needed it most. While Layla spent her days immersed in schoolwork, she didn't forget the promise she had made to herself. She would never turn her back on the people who had nothing. As she walked through the school hallways, she noticed students who were struggling. Some of them came from families that were well off, but others, like her, came from backgrounds that made education feel like an unreachable dream. Layla, remembering how a single act of kindness had changed her life, decided to give back. She began tutoring students who were falling behind in their classes. She spent her free time helping them understand subjects that they found difficult. She didn't expect anything in return. For her, just knowing she could help someone else feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more capable, was enough. As she worked with these students, Layla began to feel something she hadn't expected, a deep sense of fulfillment. She wasn't just learning in school, she was teaching others how to find their own success. It wasn't long before the Sheikh noticed Layla's efforts. He had been following her progress, seeing how she had become a beacon of hope and positivity in the community. One afternoon, as Layla was leaving school, the Sheikh's car pulled up alongside her. The window rolled down, and the Sheikh, with a warm smile, motioned for her to come over. Layla was surprised to see him. "Layla, I've been hearing wonderful things about you," he said. "You've been helping so many people, and I want to do more to support you in your journey. You've proven that kindness, intelligence, and generosity are what truly make a difference in this world." Layla smiled shyly, unsure of what to say. The Sheikh continued, "I'd like to offer you something. I want to help you with your future, Layla. I've seen how hard you work, and I know you'll use this opportunity to make the world a better place. I want to offer you a full scholarship to attend college, anywhere you choose. The future is yours to shape, and I believe in you." Layla's heart raced. A full scholarship? To attend college? She had never even dreamed of such an opportunity. She had worked so hard to get this far, but the thought of going to college, pursuing a degree in something she was passionate about, seemed like a dream she could never reach. But now, it was within her grasp. "Thank you," Layla whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "Thank you for believing in me." The Sheikh nodded. "I'm not the only one who believes in you, Layla. You've proven time and time again that you have a heart that can change the world. Now it's time to let your mind follow suit. You deserve every opportunity." As Layla drove home that day, she couldn't believe how far she had come. She had gone from being the daughter of a maid, invisible in the world of wealth and power, to someone with the chance to shape her own future. And the best part was, she was going to use that future to help others. She was determined to never forget the people she had helped along the way, the ones who had inspired her to be the person she was becoming. The journey wasn't over. It had only just begun. As Layla walked into her first day of college, a mix of excitement and nervousness filled her chest. The scholarship the Sheikh had given her was a dream come true, but it also carried the weight of a responsibility she hadn't anticipated. She wasn't just representing herself anymore. She was representing everyone who had ever been overlooked. Everyone who had been given a chance to shine only because someone else believed in them. The campus was vast, with towering buildings, manicured lawns, and students who seemed to move through the world with a confidence Layla had never known. She had spent her whole life in the background, watching the privileged with a sense of longing, but today, she was walking in their shoes. As she stepped into the lecture hall, she took a deep breath, reminding herself that she belonged here just as much as anyone else. She found a seat near the front, trying to blend in as best she could. The professor entered, a middle-aged man with an air of authority, and the room went quiet. As the class began, Layla focused on the material in front of her. The subjects were challenging, but she was determined to succeed. For the first time, she felt the thrill of learning for the sake of learning, not just for survival. She was there to build a future. But as the days went on, Layla quickly realized that college wasn't just about academics. It was about navigating a new world, a world full of people who didn't always understand where she came from. One afternoon, she was walking across campus when she overheard a group of students talking. "Did you hear about that Maid's daughter who got a scholarship?" One of them said, her voice dripping with condescension. "I heard she got it just because the Sheikh felt sorry for her. I mean, what can she possibly know about the real world?" Layla's heart sank. She wanted to turn and walk away, but something inside her pushed her to stop. She had worked so hard to get here. She wasn't going to let anyone take that away from her. With her head held high, she walked past the group, ignoring their whispers and stares. That night, she thought about the comments she had overheard. It hurt, of course, but Layla knew she couldn't let it define her. She had a mission, a goal, and the people who truly mattered would see her for who she was, not where she came from. As the semester progressed, Layla began to build relationships with her classmates. She studied hard, not just for herself, but for the community she had come from, the people who had never been given a chance. She became known for her kindness, her willingness to help others, and her unshakable work ethic. It wasn't long before some of the students who had once whispered about her began to approach her for help. Layla didn't turn them away. She knew that every opportunity to help someone was an opportunity to prove that anyone, no matter their background, could make a difference. One evening, as Layla sat in the library, working on an assignment, a familiar face appeared in the doorway. It was the Sheikh. He had come to check on her progress, to see how she was doing. "I'm proud of you, Layla," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "You're more than I ever imagined. You're not just changing your life, you're changing the world." Layla smiled, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you for believing in me," she replied. "You didn't just give me an education. You gave me the chance to be who I was always meant to be." The Sheikh nodded. "No, Layla, you did that all on your own." And in that moment, Layla knew that her journey was just beginning. She had already proven to herself and to the world that the power of belief, kindness, and determination could change lives, no matter how impossible it seemed. As Layla continued to excel in her studies and grow into a young woman of remarkable strength and character, she found herself at a crossroads. The support from the Sheikh had opened doors for her, but she realized that her journey was about more than just academics or success in the traditional sense. Layla had a deep sense of responsibility, not just to herself, but to the people she came from, the people who had always been overlooked, forgotten, and underestimated. She knew she had to use her opportunities to make a difference, but she wasn't sure how. It was during a community outreach event, organized by the university, that Layla found the answer. The event was focused on providing resources to underprivileged families, offering free education materials, food, and health services. It was something Layla felt strongly about, so she volunteered to help. As she worked alongside other students, handing out supplies, and organizing activities for children, Layla was struck by the stories she heard from the families. Many of them were living in poverty, struggling to make ends meet, just like her family had. But there was something different this time. Layla saw how much they wanted to improve their lives, how much they valued education, and how deeply they longed for a chance to change their circumstances. She realized that her journey wasn't just about leaving her past behind. It was about lifting others up along the way. That day, she made a vow to herself. She would use her education to help create opportunities for those who had been ignored by society. She would be the bridge that connected the world of privilege with the world of those who had been forgotten. As the event came to a close, Layla approached one of the organizers, a professor who had been involved in many similar projects. "I want to start something," she said, her voice filled with determination. "I want to create a program that helps kids from underprivileged backgrounds get the support they need to succeed in school. I want to show them that they can do more than survive. They can thrive." The professor looked at her, impressed by her passion. "That's a brilliant idea, Layla. What kind of support are you thinking about?" Layla paused, thinking carefully. "I want to provide mentorship, tutoring, and resources. I want to create a community where these kids can find not just help with their studies, but a sense of belonging. I want to show them that they matter, that their potential isn't limited by their circumstances." The professor smiled, clearly seeing the potential in Layla's vision. "You have the heart for this, Layla, and I believe you have the skills to make it happen. Let's start working on a plan." Over the next few months, Layla poured herself into this new project. She reached out to her professors, recruited other students, and began networking with organizations that could help provide the necessary resources. She worked tirelessly to build a program that would provide a support system for young students who, like her, had big dreams but limited resources. As the program began to take shape, Layla could feel the excitement building inside her. She was creating something that would last far beyond her own success. This was the legacy she wanted to leave, a community that could support each other, that could rise together. The Sheikh, as always, supported her vision. He helped fund the initiative and connected Layla with influential people who could help make her dream a reality. But the true success of the program didn't come from the money or the connections. It came from Layla's unwavering belief that every child deserved a chance. The day the program launched, Layla stood in front of a room full of students and families, sharing her story and her vision for the future. And as she spoke, she knew that the journey she had started was just the beginning. She had already transformed her own life, and now she was helping others do the same. Her story, the story of the maid's daughter who had been given a single dollar, was no longer just a story of survival. It was a story of transformation, of hope, and of the power of giving others the chance to dream. Months later, Layla stood at the podium, a sense of accomplishment filling her chest as she looked out over the room. The program she had worked so hard to create was finally taking off. The mentorship, tutoring, and resources were now available to dozens of students who had never believed that a future beyond survival was possible. As she spoke to the room filled with students, families, and volunteers, Layla felt the weight of everything she had worked for. She had started with $1, a small act of kindness from the Sheikh that had sparked a chain of events, and now, she was here, giving back to the community that had supported her through it all. The initiative she had founded was thriving, and she could see the difference it was making. Children who had once felt invisible now had the opportunity to be seen, to be heard, and to be given the resources they needed to succeed. Layla knew this was just the beginning. The support she had received from the Sheikh, the encouragement from her professors, and the belief from her peers had all played a role in this moment. But it was her own dedication, her relentless pursuit of change, that had made it possible. As the ceremony concluded, the room erupted into applause, and Layla felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had set out to prove that anyone, no matter where they came from, could achieve greatness if they were given the chance. And now, she was watching that very idea unfold before her eyes. The Sheikh, who had been with her through every step of the journey, approached her afterward, a proud smile on his face. "You've done more than I could ever have imagined, Layla. This is your legacy. You've given these children a chance, and in doing so, you've changed the world for the better." Layla looked up at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without your belief in me. You gave me the opportunity to believe in myself. And now, I can help others do the same." The Sheikh nodded, his expression softening. "You've gone beyond what I ever thought possible. You've shown me what true success is, and I will always be grateful for that." Layla felt the weight of his words settle in her heart. She had gone from being the maid's daughter, someone whose presence was often unnoticed, to a leader in a movement that was changing lives. But the most important lesson she had learned through it all was that wealth and power meant nothing without the ability to share those gifts with others. She had always believed in the power of kindness, and now she had seen that belief come to life in the most extraordinary way. As the days passed and the program continued to grow, Layla kept pushing forward, knowing that the work was far from finished. There were still countless children who needed support, countless families who needed help, and countless opportunities to make the world a better place. But now, Layla had the tools, the knowledge, and the heart to keep moving forward. The future, she knew, was limitless. She had started with $1, and now, she was creating a future that would change the world for generations to come. Years passed, and Layla's legacy continued to grow in ways she had never anticipated. The program she had founded had become a lifeline for countless young people, many of whom had been given a chance to succeed because of her unwavering belief in their potential. Her story, the story of a young girl who had nothing but $1 and a heart full of compassion, had inspired a movement that was now reaching beyond the walls of her community. Layla had become a symbol of hope, not just for the students in her program, but for anyone who had ever felt like they didn't belong, like they were invisible. She had proven that anyone, regardless of their background, could make a difference if they were given the right tools and support. One afternoon, as Layla sat in her office at the program headquarters, a letter arrived. It was an invitation to speak at a national conference on education and social change. Layla was surprised at first, unsure if she was the right person for such an important event. But then she remembered why she had started this journey in the first place. She wasn't doing this for recognition. She was doing it to give others the opportunity to live the life they deserved. As she prepared for the conference, Layla reflected on how far she had come. She had once been the daughter of a maid, overlooked and underestimated. Now, she was standing at the forefront of a movement that was changing the lives of thousands. She had gone from being invisible to being a voice for those who had been silenced. The day of the conference arrived, and Layla stood in front of an audience filled with educators, activists, and leaders from all walks of life. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding with anticipation, but as she began to speak, she felt an overwhelming sense of calm. This was her moment to share the story that had changed her life, the story of the $1 and the belief that one person, one act of kindness, could transform the world. "When I was a little girl, I was given $1, Layla began, her voice steady but full of emotion. "It wasn't much, but it changed everything for me. It wasn't the dollar itself, but the idea behind it, The idea that someone believed in me when I had nothing. That belief gave me the courage to believe in myself. And now, I'm here to tell you that belief is the most powerful tool we have. When we give people the chance to succeed, we change lives. And when we invest in the future of those who have been overlooked, we create a better world for everyone. The room fell silent, each person hanging on her every word. Layla spoke about her journey, the struggles, the triumphs, and the incredible impact of kindness and opportunity. By the time she finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Her story had touched everyone, reminding them of the importance of believing in the potential of others. After her speech, Layla was approached by several influential leaders who expressed their admiration for her work and offered their support. The Sheikh, who had been a silent supporter from the beginning, was also in attendance. He stood at the back of the room, watching with pride as Layla spoke. He had seen her grow from the shy girl who had once been invisible to the powerful, compassionate woman standing before the world. He knew that her journey had only just begun. Layla's success was not just about the program she had built or the scholarships she had earned. It was about the lives she had touched, the people she had inspired, and the movement she had started. She had proven that one person could change everything, and she had shown the world that kindness, opportunity, and belief in others were the true keys to success. As she left the conference that day, Layla knew that her mission was far from over. There were still so many people who needed help, so many dreams waiting to be realized. But for the first time, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be, doing exactly what she was meant to do. And no matter how far she went, she would never forget the lessons she had learned along the way, that the power to change the world was in each of us, waiting to be unleashed. In this inspiring tale of hope and determination, a young girl's journey from humble beginnings to extraordinary success is revealed. This is one of those remarkable millionaire stories that proves that true wealth isn't just measured by money, but by the impact you make on others' lives. Starting with a single dollar, a kind act from a wealthy sheikh transforms the life of a maid's daughter, showing how small moments can create massive change. This is one of those millionaire stories where kindness, opportunity, and hard work create an undeniable ripple effect, changing not only Layla's life, but the lives of countless others. As she rises from obscurity to build a program that offers education and support to underprivileged youth, Layla embodies everything these millionaire stories strive to teach. That success comes from more than just financial gain. It's about lifting others as you rise. This inspiring journey is a shining example of what can happen when one person is given a chance, and it proves that millionaire stories aren't only about the rich. They're about those who use their resources to create lasting change. Layla's story is a perfect example of how the true power of wealth lies in the way it is shared and invested in others, making her one of the most impactful figures in a world full of millionaire stories that often go untold.